Hello again, and welcome back to Lost in Translation. My name is Nico, and this week we are looking at the Torah portion of Haazinu and the 10 things that you will miss if you are only reading the portion in English. So we're going to start with number 1. Rain and dew. So it's important to note here that this is only the second song in the whole Torah. There are 2 songs, this song here, the Shirat Haazinu, and the first one was back in the Exodus, the Shirat Hayam. And so the language changes a bit. We have these kind of couplet pairs, and it's something more reminiscent of what we see in the Psalms instead of what we see in the rest of the way that the Torah is constructed. And so it's obviously more poetic, and the language is meant to draw back on all that symbolism that we've been seeing, all that linguistic and poetic symbolism that we've been seeing throughout the entire Torah. And we're going to start right here with my lesson will drip like rain, and my word will flow like dew, right? The Torah is considered to be like water, right? Prayer is also like water. So the idea that the teaching from above comes down into this world, that it should come down like the way that we receive water. It's essential for our life. It's also not something that we can control all the time, right? So the idea of there being this dew and rain, it really demonstrates that even for the wisdom and the teaching of Torah, we are dependent upon forces that are outside of ourselves. Number 2, the rock. Okay, again, because we have a more poetic situation here, there can be a lot of differences between the way that we translate this. Here they've translated the deeds of the mighty rock. Well, okay, they've added this word mighty to give you this impression of how important the rock is. Instead, it says Hatzur, right? This is the rock. And in fact, the translation in the art scroll starts with the rock, perfect are its deeds, or perfect are his deeds, right? So they emphasize the importance of the rock by leaving it right at the beginning of the sentence like it is in Hebrew, okay? Well, what is this rock? This righteous and upright foundation upon which everything rests. So again, we saw in this part up above where we're dependent upon something. Well, the rock, the foundation, that is what we're dependent upon. Number 3, corruption and blemish. Again, a bit of difference here in the translation. Corruption is not his, destruction is not his, right? And the defect or the blemish is in his children, right? The crooked and twisted generation. Well, right, so we're distinguishing that there's a difference between creation and creator here. The creator is the foundation of everything, but here we are in our form of creation, and we're disconnected from that, right? We're something different, and that difference does not have the same strength as its creator, and it's, from our perspective, a corruption. So now that the creation has been separated from creator, we need to understand how this whole song is bringing us to this idea of the final correction. Number 4, Israel and Jacob. Okay, so first we need to remember that Israel and Jacob are two names given to the son of Isaac, grandson of Abraham, the third of the forefathers, right? But Israel is also the name given to the entire nation that came forth from Jacob. And here we have this imperfect creation. There's a blemish. But now there is this other nation, right, that's been separated, right? The boundaries are all set, and then the nations are separated, and Hashem's portion is Jacob, the lot of his inheritance. So this isn't Jacob's inheritance that we're talking about. We're talking about the Lord's inheritance in the world, that really this is the connection that Israel, that Yashar Kel, and this Jacob. Remember, Jacob is connected to the idea of Ekev, the heel. It's at the very bottom. In some ways, we might think of it being a lowliness, but it's also the completeness, the fulfillment of everything from top to bottom, that all levels of creation are to be purified and connected back to Hashem. Even that lowliness and that those defects and those blemishes and the corruption, they're all meant to be corrected through this system of Israel back to Hashem. Number 5, granted understanding. Okay, here we're talking about what happened with Jacob or with Israel, right? He found him in a desert land, in a wilderness, right? Midbar is wilderness, oftentimes translated into desert. It was desolate. Okay, good. We're talking about, this is the farthest reach into the limitation that's possible, and that's where Yaakov was lifted out of, and he encircled him, or encompassed him, encircled him, right? That circles also have this connotation of eternity. A line has a beginning and an end, right? The circle, there is no end. It just keeps on going forever around itself, right? Here, what's interesting is that he bestowed understanding, he granted understanding, right? Well, Ibonehu, right? This word right here is it's basically, the root word is bina. We've talked about bina before. It is part of the spiritual worlds, right? It means understanding. And the idea that this low place was brought up to the level of bina, right now it's staring right in front of us. The exact word is being used right here in this song. So to be raised to the level of Binah means that now this quality of Jacob wants to be connected to Hashem. It wants to bestow to the lower ones now. So even though it's still imperfect, it's now in the process of becoming similar to the Creator. Okay, number 6. Yeshurun. Okay, so now we see everything that Hashem has done for Yaakov, that he's carried him out on his wings, he's guided him, he's fed him, he's given him everything that he needs. And then we see here that Yerushun became fat and rebelled. Right? He grew fat and thick and rotund, right? Thickness of youth. This is this idea that that there's something that blocks, something that gets in the way between the created being and the creator. And this is the will to receive, right? What happens is all this good stuff comes, and now we start wanting it for ourselves, okay? And that's where we see this Yerushun, you have to see here, just like it is, it's basically another word for Israel. We see Yeshar instead of, we see the first three letters are the same. And then Un is there's something different in this relationship between Israel and the creator, because now it's no longer straight to the creator. In fact, a modern translation of this could be fun, right? That it comes straight to its own pleasures, right? That it says something that it's more interested in something else because of its satiation, its thickness, right? And it's turned away from the rock, right? That made them. Number 7, demons, right? So now that Israel has become focused on something else, we see that they provoke Hashem with alien worship. Avodah zarah. This is the service to something foreign. It's not. It means that they're no longer connected to Hashem. They're no longer interested in Hashem, and they're sacrificed or slaughtering to demons. And the demon isn't some intelligence from some supernatural intelligence that wants to pull us down into the depths. The demons, these are our desires, our egotistical desires that bring us away from the divine principle, right? So now you've got, this is what's happening here. The moment we want to receive all these great things for our own sake, instead of receiving them for the benefit of others, or even the benefit of the creator, in order to fulfill the design of creation, once we get locked into our egoism, now all these things are becoming given over to these demons that have no power, just like our egoism really has no power. We want things, we can do things in this world to get what we want, but in the end, the world and everything circumstance can come against us, right? So there is no real power in what we want. There's only what arrives to us, okay? And these are the things, these are things that the forefathers that were connected to Hashem, they didn't have these desires. They didn't know this. They only knew connection to the Creator. Number 8, fire and blaze. Again, this is a song. This is a poem, so the translation can be flexible here. We have this idea of fire, right? For a fire blazed in my wrath. Oh, yeah. The ofi, this is like in my nostrils, right? We have this fire blazed in my nostrils and burned in my lowest depths. Well, so there's again this idea of the partsuf, right? That from the lower part is cut off. It's burnt with fire. The fire is these egotistical desires that separate from the rain and the dew that come from above, right? So we see that there are bad things, or from the perspective of the lower one, that there's all these bad things that happen, but the bad things aren't there just to punish, because this is all part of the design. This has to happen, right? The bad things happen in order to come as a correction so that the lower ones can come of their own volition to connect back to the creator, right? Why is there all of this? So that the lower one can perceive that they have uh, some sort of individuality, right? The upper one, it's always connected to Hashem. There is no freedom really. It's just, here is Hashem, here is his abundance, and I'm connected, and that's all there is. But the moment I disconnect from that and I have a choice to endure the outrages of my egoism, or to make a choice to connect back to Hashem, now I achieve this unit, this individuality, which is like the creator. And so instead of becoming a piece of what is creation, I actually achieve this individuality that can now participate back with the creator. And now that's the true similarity, right? And that's required. In order to do this, it's required that this separation happens. And that's why we have this system of establishment, fall, and return. And we'll start to see how that return works here shortly. Number 9, the enemy. Okay, so we've had this long list of things talking about the enemies, the adversaries, right? Adversaries, those who hate me, those are the ones who hate Hashem, right? Or, the enemy, right? These are the forces that are against Hashem. Well, the only forces that are against Hashem are those forces of egotistical desire. Again, they are demons that have no power. They can do nothing against Hashem. Eventually, the program will proceed. The correction will happen. The connection back to Hashem is the thought of creation, right? So what's happened here is that although they had their time to reign, and they had all these, and they punished this nation of Israel, this desire to be connected back to Hashem, even though it became weak and suffered underneath the layers and layers of egoism, eventually the vengeance is upon the adversaries, and he repays those who hate me. I will repay those who hate me. Hashem is going to wipe out that egoism, that he's going to punish that side so much that, that the only option that's going to be left for us is going to be this desperate need of connection back to something higher, something more fundamental, a connection back to that rock from which we came, right, to the source. And so this whole song is describing in a very short fashion exactly what's taken place throughout all of the Torah. There was this small family connected to Hashem. They were separated into Egypt, right, where they suffered under a different king who in the end had no power over Hashem, who was defeated easily by Hashem, and they were carried out of Egypt and brought back to the land. And everything that happened to them because it was Hashem's power that carried them. Nothing was of their own volition. And every time that they fought against it, they received greater hardships. So this song is showing us, again, exactly what the whole Torah is about, and putting it in terms it's much easier to see. And number 10, that very day, Moshe Rabbeinu has just finished teaching this song to the elders and the officers. And we have right here, Vaydiber Hashem el Moshe be'etzem hayom hazeh le'amor, right? On that very day, or zeh can also be this very day, right? This, that, just depends on the context. We're understanding that this is a past action, perhaps, right? And what is he saying? To go up this Mount Avarim. This is the mountain of, I don't know, like 40 or something. Again, we have these stages. Moshe Rabbeinu is 40 years old. Excuse me, he's 120 years old, and he's got 3 stages of his life. 40 years a prince of Egypt, 40 years in the wilderness by himself, and 40 years basically the shepherd of the nation of Israel, right? And so now his 40 years mission is up, and he's told to go up the mountain of Nebo in the land of Moab to see the land of Israel and then die. And he's being told on that very day, right? What are we being told here? Basically, the idea was that people didn't want him to die. They wanted to stop this from happening. They're protesting. They're saying, don't go, stay with us longer. And the idea was that if we could keep him from going up the mountain, Moshe Rabbeinu wouldn't die. So here, Hashem is letting him know, no, this is going to happen. And it should happen this way. Go up the mountain and see what you want to see. See what's good to see. Because here is the end, right? So these are all the interesting things that I find in Haazinu. It's a very profound song. Share with me the things that you found that you think are interesting, and share them in the comments. And until next time, like, share, subscribe, and be well.